that. Beautiful. We go on to here. Let's see if we've got multi-stream. Hey Kathy, how are you? Thank you for joining us. We're almost ready to go, I think. Just want to make sure I've got all my charts up. Yeah, beautiful. We don't need that one. Oh, no, not that one. Alrighty. G'day folks, Chris Nitso, Weather IQ, lead forecaster here at Weather IQ. And tonight we're discussing a few different things. So we've got the development of the monsoon, as you can see on your screen there. To the north of the top end, there is a monsoonal flow coming across the equator and creating a fair amount of rain and storm activity offshore, off the Northern Territory. The stuff on the mainland in the NT, technically, if we want to be pedantic about it, isn't monsoonal. So it's actually more just an equatorial trough. But the stuff that's on the eastern side of the NT is monsoonal. So we'll talk quickly about the monsoon. Then I want to talk about a weak low in the Kimberley. And then I want to talk about some big rain coming for a large chunk of Queensland's north. So they're the three topics tonight that I want to cover. And then I'll ask you for questions. If you've got any questions, let me know and we'll chat about them. Alrighty, our major sponsor there on the top left, Fair Dinkum Builds Townsville. We thank them for their sponsorship. And once again, if you don't know, we are not funded at all by any other agencies except for our members. So if you would like to support us, it's a pretty simple way of doing that is you can head over to that link on the top right, weatheriq.com.au/subscribe. We have 4 different subscription options. $32.95 a year gets you access to all my forecasts. $69.95 gets you access to all my forecasts and all of our weather graphics, which a lot of them you'll see tonight. So we thank you for your support, for those of you that are joining us. For those of you that aren't quite ready to commit, that's okay. Just have a look at some of these lives, get a feel for what we do and the way we do things. All right. Let's have a look at this monsoon. So what we've got at the moment, significant rainfall to the north of Australia. And when we take a look at our model, and we'll use the ECAI model, and just have a look at where this wind is coming from. And what we can see here, when we take a look at the deep layer mean steering average, what we can see is that we've got this part is monsoonal. So this part comes across the equator and becomes a monsoon. This part is not monsoonal. And so this is a trough until we get to about here. Here, it becomes the monsoon trough. So it's just a little technicality. It doesn't really change the weather experienced on the ground. It does, to some degree, change the depth of moisture that comes in, and that's a big difference between a normal trough and a monsoon trough. Monsoon trough tends to have a much deeper mid-level moisture profile, and so when we take a look at our 700 to 400 hectopascal level moisture content, what we're going to see is that the monsoon side of things is driving very significant moist air into the eastern NT, but you can see the part that's not really monsoonal is trying to drive in this dry air through the mid-levels of the atmosphere. So it's a little technicality, and ordinarily on the ground you don't feel the difference, right? Because you're getting showers and thunderstorms, whether it's a monsoon or whether it's an equatorial trough. But if you're trying to look for a tropical cyclone to form, you need to have a deep layer of mid-level moisture, and that is usually only present along the monsoon. So while this is the monsoon over here, this is not. And where this Kimberley low, and that leads us into the Kimberley low, where this Kimberley low is forming is not in and around the monsoon. It's actually in and around the equatorial trough. So the Kimberley low has a real tough time of bringing deep layer moisture into itself. And that's one of the key hallmarks of what makes a tropical cyclone, or what allows a low to become a tropical cyclone, is deep moist air advection. And not just at the surface, but we need that moist air through a deep layer of atmosphere. So this is one of the problems with the Kimberley low becoming a tropical cyclone later on down the track. The one good thing about this, if you like your rain, is that there's going to be a lot of rain, all right? Then there's going to be a fair bit of rain right across northern Australia. We're expecting to see between just now and next Friday. Right, between now and next Friday, we're expecting to see 100 to 300 mils of rain around Broome and around the Bidyadanga area and even the East Pilbara. We're anticipating significant amounts of that rain to head down into the northern interior. We can see the Darwin area. In a monsoon, we'd expect more rain than what the model's predicting there. Because it's not quite a monsoon, we don't quite have that depth of moisture for a very long time. We don't quite get that rainfall that we would normally anticipate over Darwin. So you can see they're getting healthy rain, but they're not getting huge rain. We also go over to the Gulf. On the Gulf side, we do get the monsoon. We get the proper monsoon on this side. And so here, Weipa and that west coast of Queensland gets very significant rainfall over the course of the week, where we get that deep layer of moisture transporting into Queensland. The other area that does very well is going to be the northeast Queensland coastline, between probably just south of Mackay at this stage and to around about Tully, Innisfail. That area will do very, very well over the next week, rainfall-wise, and so too will the northern interior. So that area from Charters Towers out towards Hewenden, maybe as far west as Richmond, and a little bit south of the Flinders Highway as well. So those areas will do very well from a rainfall perspective over the course of the next week. Now, very well doesn't mean it's going to be cataclysmic flooding. It just means that we're expecting to see generally falls in the 80 plus millimetre range over the week, likely falls in 150 plus over a large chunk of those areas I just mentioned. So that's some pretty significant rainfall over a very large area. Now, for you coastal folks, you look at that and you go, oh, 150 mils, that's not much. Yeah, it's not. But when you start adding it up over that large an area, it matters. And 150 mils on the coast is not the same as 150. It is the same technically from a scientific perspective. 150 mils here is 150 mils here. But on the ground, 150 mils in here does a lot more damage than 150 mils here. Okay, so understand that this is going to be a fairly widespread rain event. This isn't going to be a couple of storms here and a couple of storms there. So we're getting a significant amount of rainfall over the coming week in the northern parts of the nation, associated with the monsoon and the low in the Kimberley, as well as a new low that might form in the Gulf. Let's have a look at our low pressure systems over the next few days and see what they're going to do. All right. On this chart here, we're looking at a situation where, all right, we have probabilities at the bottom. Okay, what are the chances of seeing a low pressure system? Anything in the blue and purple, lock it in, Eddie. Anything in the light blue, we're pretty keen. Anything in the green, we're sort of interested. Anything in the yellow, meh, could take it or leave it. Anything in the orange, red or pink, purple there, whatever colour that you want to call that, we don't care. All right, so the idea here is very confident on a low in the Kimberley, pretty confident on a low developing around the Gulf, and obviously there's a low off the coast of North Queensland tracking away from the coast in the next few days. So the idea is the Kimberley low will move very slowly to the west. Keep an eye on the time here. This is Wednesday morning, okay? So the Kimberley low will move west. The Gulf low will move south very, very slowly, and the North Queensland low will move southeast out to sea. Now, ordinarily, that low moving out to sea would mean North Queensland would be in for a very dry spell, right? But that's not the case, because we know that we've got the monsoon coming in for a couple of days this week, and we know that that low is then going to turn or curve that moisture in and around itself. And so with that low developing, even though this low exists and pushes out to sea, it doesn't make the area fine and dry while that's happening because of the presence of this system. So complex interrelationship there between our three lows, or two of our three lows. As we go into Thursday, we can see that our Kimberley low pushes off the Pilbara coastline and is basically pushing parallel to the Pilbara, but very, very close to the coast. We can see that our Gulf low is tracking very slowly to the south into the Gulf country, and we can see the Queensland low, we're starting to lose track of it. Some of the models are starting to say nothing to see here, it would have weakened. Some of them are quickly accelerating it out towards New Caledonia. It's all over the shop as we go there. So we expect this to be a non-feature. Longer term, we're anticipating that the Kimberley low will now be a Pilbara low, and it'll be off the coast of the Pilbara, but very, very close to the coast. We're expecting the Gulf system to move from northwest Queensland, or the Gulf country of Queensland, and move into the central parts of the Northern Territory on this particular day. So what happens here is very interesting, because between Thursday and Friday, the monsoon dies. It literally just stops dead. It stops in play. So we have a monsoon today, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday night, it starts to die. Thursday, it dies. Friday, it's non-existent. And so when it dies, the chance of this low moving eastwards drops off. And so what happens here is the low then starts to move to the west into the NT. Our low in the Kimberley or Pilbara is now pushing towards the central to western Pilbara, but we're also starting to lose track of whether or not it's still a low, because there's potential there for it to weaken fairly quickly at the end of the week once the monsoon lets go. And there is a new chance of a low around the Townsville to Mackay coastline, very small chance, and we're talking about those weak circulations here. We're not talking about the very significant cyclonic systems. We're talking about those little weak rotations. You remember the one yesterday that was supposed to be around Brisbane that didn't get to Brisbane? All right, it got to the Gold Coast and then it pushed offshore, and then it took the rain away to sea with it. Right, and they're the sort of fine lines that we're going to be dealing with in northeast Queensland as we go into Friday as well, because we could see a very weak circulation around the Townsville-Mackay coastline. If that's on the coast, could see a couple of 100 mils in quick time there. If that's off the coast, it'll take the rain out to sea with it. All right, so very interesting dynamics there towards the end of the week. So the end of the week, the forecast as we go Thursday to Saturday is a little bit tricky for that Mackay with Sundays Townsville region, because of the possible development of that low pressure area very close to the coast. All right, moving on into Saturday. Our low off the Pilbara coastline is expected to begin weakening as it tracks away. The monsoon is finished, dead, gone, and so there's no further good moisture advection. So now we've got a lot of dry air pushing into that low. So that low is on its way out. This low into central NT is also on its way out, because once again, the monsoon is dead. There's no further moisture transportation into the low. So eventually it just sort of rains itself out and it dries out. And so we get that dry air that pushes in, and then the low can't rebuild its storm activity. All right, so eventually this will die, eventually this will die. And this North Queensland thing, once again, we have an area between Townsville and St. Lawrence for that possible development of that circulation. If that circulation does start to show and take some shape, it's expected to move away from the coastline. All right. If it doesn't, if it's a very weak circulation, it's expected to just muck around near the coastline. That's the difference between 300-400 millimetres over a couple of days and 30 to 40 millimetres over a couple of days. And once again, I'll bring you back to Brisbane yesterday, right? Very similar setup. Brisbane had a little circulation around the Gold Coast. If that had gone north-northwest like it was forecast to, Brisbane would have been waking up to 200-300 mils. Because it went north and it went offshore by only about 50 k's, Brisbane ended up getting 20 mils. So that's the difference, that we're going to see the same type of situation happening between Townsville and St. Lawrence at the end of the week. So just a heads up there, you're going to see some wildly varying totals there towards the end of the week when we go into the Mackay with Sundays and Herbert Burdekin area. All right, longer term, the low in the NT dies. The Gulf low from Queensland, which goes into the NT, it's dead. The Pilbara low eventually dies, and the Queensland system eventually takes its sweet time and then chucks off to the east. Now, you can see the Queensland system is probably the lowest probability of all the systems, because it's only a very weak signal. All right, so some of the models are picking up on it. Some of the models just have it too weak to be picked up on. The point of the matter is, if it develops, if it deepens, Queenslanders, you've got nothing to worry about here. It's going to move away from the coast if it deepens. If it doesn't deepen, that's the time where you've got to worry about it, when it's very, very weak, because then it might just stay very slow moving close to the coast. All right, so same thing in the NT. We're not too interested in this from a tropical cyclone perspective. What we're interested in it here is from rain perspective primarily, and northwest Queensland especially needs to watch this system, because if it ducks a little bit further south before moving west, there is a chance there that we bring some of that really heavy and intense rainfall through that northwest district, and that's the last thing they need. And for the Pilbara, what we're interested in here is how close to the coast can this thing be, and how strong, how much weather can it produce without the assistance of the monsoon as it tracks parallel to the coast. So that's what we're looking for there. So what are we looking for from a rainfall perspective? Once again, if we take a look at, say, going back to this chart, this is just the next 7 days. Let's take this right out to 10 days. Let's look at a 10-day rain forecast. I don't like looking too far ahead, but we've got some pretty good confidence overall of where the rain's going to be. It's just the amounts get a little bit hairy. We don't really know about the amounts just yet, the top range amounts, right? And so this takes us right out to, what day is this? We'll go out till Tuesday. So out till Tuesday morning. This is Tuesday, February the 24th. So not Tuesday in 3 or 4 days, Tuesday in 10 days. So you can see there, significant rainfall through the southern Kimberley, through the northern interior, and then notice how we're pushing a fair bit of rain further west through the Pilbara as well. So the modelling's showing us that there's potential there for some good rain for the Pilbara. You can see this NT, or the Gulf flow, tracks into northwest Queensland temporarily and then pushes west through into about Tennant Creek before it dies. So nice moisture flow into that central NT, and you'll see that central NT, the desert regions of NT, are picking up almost as much, if not more, rain than Darwin in this setup. And you'll notice there for northeast Queensland, once again, and not just northeast Queensland, but the possibility of northern inland Queensland, seeing some very, very significant rainfall over the course of the next 7 to 10 days through that region. And once again, I've got to show you a few models, because if I show you one, we can sort of be, we don't have a great confidence if there's only one model showing it. But you can see here, this is another AI version, and we can see once again significant rainfall over the western Kimberley into the Pilbara, significant rainfall through the central NT, heavier rainfall there than there is over the tropics of the NT, and once again, very significant and widespread. That's the important part, widespread rainfall. A lot of North Queensland stuff, a lot of the heavy rain that's been in northeast Queensland especially has been very coastal, and it's been some areas that have had 200, 300, 400 millimetres, and then other areas around it that have had almost nothing, right? So this is a much more widespread. So we're not seeing 1 metre plus numbers, but we're seeing a much more widespread, wide-scale rain event here for Queensland's north. And looking at some of our numerical weather prediction models, it's always important to compare the physics-based output with the AI-based output. And we're looking here for the... Oh, we haven't got... Have we not? No, we haven't got the latest EC out yet. Oh, that's disappointing. All right, so we don't have the latest version of that out, but generally speaking, just till Wednesday, just the next few days, you can see clearly that we're getting a lot of rain over the Kimberley Pilbara. You can see clearly that we're getting a fair bit of rain right across the tropics and through the northern and central interior. This is just out till Tuesday, Wednesday. Of course, we then watch. After this point, we watch for the development of any rotation near the coastline here, which would enhance the rainfall significantly beyond Wednesday. All right, but unfortunately, that model hasn't come out. I'm surprised it hasn't come out. It's usually out by now. Maybe we've had some technical difficulties with it. Right, and the GFS, where are we? The GFS, for what it's worth, we don't usually check this one, but we may as well have a look. Yeah, so the GFS has the same thing, right? Significant rain, Kimberley, Pilbara, Kimberley, Pilbara and northern interior, significant rainfall central NT, and significant widespread rainfall across North Queensland over the next 10 days. So pretty good confidence overall, both in physics-based modelling and also AI modelling. So we're pretty set on good rainfall up here. It's just a matter of how big do the numbers get, okay? And at that point, you know, we're only guessing for now. It's still a fair way away. All right, so that's our three systems. So our low over here tracking this way, our low over here tracking south and then west, and our low off the coast of off the coast of Townsville, Mackay, and near Willis Island tracking away to the southeast, with a possible next circulation developing late in the week between Townsville and St Lawrence. But only a small probability of that. All right, so that's my summary. I'll bring it out to questions now. So I'll go back and have a look at our questions. Okay. Kathy, hi. Hi, Kathy. Jeanette, hi, Jeanette. Chris, g'day, mate. G'day, Chris. Good to have you with us again. You're a regular. Liz, hey, Liz, you're a regular too. Thanks for all the insight on a interesting level. No worries, Kathy. Sonia, hello. Hello, Sonia. How are you? Ryan, so no chance of playing cricket tomorrow in the Ville? I don't know. I don't think cricket will be rained out. Let's have a look. I'm not seeing huge numbers for Townsville tomorrow. I'm assuming they've covered the pitches and stuff, I hope, just in case we get rain tonight. Let's have a look. Saturday, rainfall there. Yeah, so some showers coming through overnight tonight, or through the night tonight, and showers in the morning through the Townsville district, but I can't see the whole day being rained out if you're a cricketer. I mean, I don't know, you guys get a bit particular about your cricket in the rain, but yeah, look, I don't know. If you get tough a couple of drizzly showers for Townsville, you should be able to sort of get yourself a decent day's play, mate. Yeah. But with Townsville, it's not about today and tomorrow for them. It's about the next week. Once the monsoon comes in and brings down that northerly flow, probably from around Monday, I think that's where we'll start to get some decent rainfall for that part of the world. But we do see the opportunity for sure for showers and maybe even an isolated thunderstorm tomorrow. I just don't see how it would probably rain a whole day of cricket out, assuming that you've done the right things tonight and covered the pitches and that sort of thing. Yeah, so you can see there a couple of showers in the morning or overnight tonight. There's the AI model showing us the same thing, mate. A few showers overnight, early in the morning, clearing to mostly fine isolated showers and thunderstorms on the ranges in the afternoon. And yeah, most of the more significant convection tomorrow for Townsville is going to be west and northwest of the city. And then as we go into Sunday night, Monday morning, it's going to start coming into the city a bit more. All right, so you can see there we're starting to really spread that rainfall out as we go into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So lots of potential there for showers and thunderstorms. But it is showers and thunderstorms as opposed to just rain out. So that's for you, Ryan. Highly recommend, full member here, and love stalking out the Weather Centre and all the charts you share in your videos myself. Good on you, Mad Mumsy. Thank you for your support. And yeah, folks, if you do want to join us, it's not going to break your bank. It's $32.95 a year to get my forecast. And if you want to get all the maps and stuff that we use, it's $69.95 a year for all the radar, satellite, and all the different model maps, which we've added hail maps, we've added supercell maps, we've added tornado maps now, believe it or not. That's pretty cool. Not too many places can give you those. Right, so that's something that's going to be very interesting for next storm season. Probably not so much this storm season, unless we get a cyclone. If we get a cyclone, see those tornado maps light up. All right, so that's Townsville. Thanks, Mad Mumsy. Wade, some good rain for Mackay. Yes, Wade, should be some good rain. Let's go to the Mackay Whitsundays and let's have a closer look at them. We'll centre it on the Whitsundays because I don't... Yeah, actually, no, we'll centre it on Mackay because there is going to be a bit of rain down further southwards and westwards too, out towards the Central Highlands. So... yeah, mate, we do expect to see some nice rain here. It might take a little while, though. While that low is still mucking around, it's still going to stuff you around a little bit because it is creating a fairly stable environment there, and it's making life very difficult. Do you remember those big storms that were west of Mackay last night, and they were severe warned? They didn't make it to the coast, and the reason they didn't make it to the coast is this coastline between St Lawrence and probably about Bowen, maybe Burdekin, very, very stable coastline. So it's very difficult for a storm to actually form and or survive this coastline at the moment. But that will change. Once our low starts to bugger off, that'll start to change, and we're going to see an increase in shower activity Sunday night, Monday morning around Mackay. And then you can see some heavier shower activity setting in through the day in Mackay on Monday, and then some storm activity in the afternoon. And then as we go through Monday night, Tuesday morning, widespread showers and rain areas on the coastline. Then as we go into Tuesday afternoon, we can see showers and thunderstorms right around the district. Tuesday night, lots of rainfall on the coastline. And you can see some of our heavier falls then developing Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. through the Mackay with Sundays. And then, of course, later on in the week, we don't know, but we're watching for any development of rotation. So as we get into Thursday, Friday, there could be a further significant increase in rainfall here if we start to develop any rotation in the atmosphere up where my cursor is there around Bowen. So that's what we'd be looking for later in the week. If we don't get that rotation, it'll just be a continuation of heavy showers and possible thunderstorms for that entire period. But if we did get a circulation forming, then we'd see a period of really enhanced rainfall. And depending on how that circulation then developed, if it did develop, it would then take the rain offshore after that period. All right. If it didn't develop, and there wasn't much of a circulation there, or it didn't strengthen, what we would eventually see is that this rain that you're seeing over Mackay with Sundays on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is then going to push a bit further northwards back up into the Townsville district. So there's a fair bit of doubt about how next weekend will progress because we don't know how Thursday, Friday will progress with regards to that possible circulation close to the coast. All right, but generally speaking, mate, I'd be very disappointed if I was in Mackay and didn't get myself 1 to 200 mils this week. Pretty disappointing effort if we didn't get that in that area. And the same would apply for the Whitsundays. If we weren't getting 1 to 200 over the course of the next 7 days or so, it'd be a pretty disappointing effort, given the fact that there's all this potential. Lucky Brisbane didn't get drenched these few days. Yeah, it is. They were pretty lucky, believe it or not. The last thing they needed was the 200 plus millimetres that was being predicted for them. And once again, we go back to the reason why Brisbane didn't get that rain. So we had this low that started to pop up off the coast of Coolangatta, very close to Coolangatta. And you saw what it did to the Gold Coast, right? It dumped 200 mils on them in fairly quick time. Now, that low was initially being the prognosis of that low was it was going to form there and then was going to move north-northwest, basically hugging the coast. So what we found was that low formed in the right spot where it was expected to, but then started to diverge off the path that it was expected to go on. And this is one of the things that North Queenslanders know all too well, because they go through these every few days. Every few days we get these little circulations that pop up. You Southeast Queenslanders, you're not used to it, right? So you're not used to that variability, and that's why you all go silly when you start having a chop at us. But Queenslanders know this very, very clearly. We often get a situation where the coastline is orientated, because if you look at that coastline, that's the same way that the Cairns to Rolling Stone coastline is orientated. All right, that same section of coastline orientated in that same way, and we have the same situation happening there, but we just have it more frequently there. And sometimes these circulations get on the coast, sometimes they stay just off the coast, right? And the difference is huge in rainfall. It's about 200 to 300 mils in a day. All right, so that's why for those Southeast Queenslanders, especially the nuff-nuffs who know nothing about weather, and this is they get told they're getting 200-300 mils, but in this really fine line, finicky type situation, and then they don't get their 200-300 mils and they go off their nuts because they don't get why they didn't get their 200 and 300 mils. They just think, oh, the weatherman's fucking wrong again. All right, so the idea being that we're always in a tough spot with these things because of the orientation of the coastline, because of the way things develop, and because of our upper level pattern. So a lot of the time in North Queensland when these form, we have a fairly strong monsoon. So we know that if they start to develop a lot of depth and height, that they end up getting pulled offshore due to the monsoon. Here in Southeast Queensland, if we had a look at what's going on in their upper level pattern, we can see that their Cat 2, Cat 3 steering winds, i.e. their mid-level winds. It's the wrong model. Let's have a look at that model. So their steering winds for something that was a bit stronger was going to take it offshore. And so that low started to get a fair bit of, and I'll just use a model from back when this was happening. All right, so that's better. So that's our little low. Our low was just off the coast of Coolangatta at this time. All right, this was Friday morning. So at this stage, the initial prognosis was that it was going to be just east of the coastline, but close enough to drive heavy rain. But have a look at what the steering winds were doing. So do you see the steering winds were going to drag it further offshore? And notice that the steering winds dragged it further offshore, and then instead of coming back onto the coast eventually it just died out to sea, and that's why the Sunshine Coast didn't get as much rain as they were meant to get either. So it's not just Brisbane that didn't get the rain. Sunshine Coast got about half of what they were expecting too. The big winners out of all this, of course, was Hervey Bay and Maryborough, because they got double the rain that they were expected to get, all right? Because we broke down this little low and trough, and so we created a new low and trough right over here, around Hervey Bay, Binghamton, Gayndah, all that area there. And we got massive rainfall in that region, 1 to 200 mils. That was the 1 to 200 that was supposed to fall in here. All right. But because of the way things happened, this pushed offshore and died, allowed a new system to form right in here, or allowed a new trough system to form right up there. And they basically stole southeast Queensland's rainfall. All right. So that's how it went. That's how it went yesterday. I love the rain, but hoping for a dry day in Ingham for the Tones and I. Or Tones and I up there. When's that on, Marilyn? That's a big get for Ingham to see Tones and I go up there. I rate her. She's a good musician. Hey, Nitso, are you and just curiously enough rainfall for the Whitsunday? Yeah, we just talked about rainfall for the Whitsundays next week, Jesse. So just go back to where we talked about that, mate. Friday's in Ingham. Okay, so Tones and I's on Friday. Yeah. Is the heat going to settle down soon? Trina, I'm not sure where you are, mate, because a large chunk of Queensland's not going to be all that hot this week. And they're going to be very humid, but not that hot. So if we take a look at I'm assuming you're in Queensland. I might have assumed wrong, but if we just take a quick look at the surface maximums, what we're going to find there is large chunks of southern and central Queensland are looking pretty good, and even northeast Queensland looking pretty good in terms of heat, but humidity levels are going to be sky high. So yeah, it won't be a lot of heat, but lots of humidity. Dew points are going to be up around the mid-20s through a large chunk of Queensland. And that leads me actually to something else, forgetting about the heat here. But generally speaking, for your answer to your question, no, it's not going to be hot again around Queensland, but it's going to be bloody humid. It's going to be humid all week. And one of the things there, humid in the central and northern parts, all right, because the southeast is going to clear out. So the other thing I wanted to just draw your attention to, that just jogged my mind to mention it, is this, the precipitable water values. So what this does is shows us how much moisture there is in a column of atmosphere. And anything that's in the red is a lot of moisture. So there's about 60 plus millimetres of moisture through one column of atmosphere. All right, as we take a vertical cross section of the atmosphere, or you just, if you imagine a little cone, and we were able to have the ability to trap one little tiny skerrick of atmosphere from the top to the bottom, and try and wring it out like a sponge, how much moisture would you get out of it? And here we've got 60 plus millimetres of precipitable water. So what this tells us, for those of you in central and north Queensland, is that while we're not expecting a big rain event where it just keeps raining all day, we are expecting flash flooding to be a feature from yesterday onwards. And you can see here the precipitable water values throughout the week are sky high on the Queensland coast and through the Gulf country and through the northern interior. You can see those numbers, around 60 millimetres or so, are very significant for that large chunk of that region. So on top of that, if you then have lift in the atmosphere, and when we take a look at our lifting processes in the atmosphere, we can see that we do have some lift in the atmosphere. So there's opportunities to lift that moisture. And that's a problem from a flash flood perspective. So please be mindful of that if you're travelling on these roads. There might not be enough rainfall overall in the next few days to create riverine flooding, or a lot of riverine flooding, but flash flood is a big risk, and surface water on roads is a big risk, and little creeks and streams flooding is a big risk. So make sure you're not camping up there, and obviously make sure that you're checking the road conditions when you are moving through these areas. But you can clearly see lots of instability up there and huge precipitable water values. Sorry, I digress, but that was important to mention. Evening, Jackie. Evening from Paluma. Hey, Tracy, good to have you with us. Lou, hot and humid in Yeppoon. Yeah, it'd probably be humid again tomorrow, and then it'll probably settle down as we go through the week. But it's still going to be warm. Yeah. Jody, thank you for your updates. No worries, Jody. Thanks for tuning in. Tash, always appreciate your time. Nitso and team, always look forward to your updates. Thanks, Tash. Just remember, you can get our updates every single day if you're a member. And so if you want to try a membership, we've got a YouTube membership as well, which is like $14.95 for the month. If you just want to try it out for a month and get all the forecasts, you can be a YouTube member. And then if you decide to get a membership, we then apply a $10 credit or something to your membership on the website. So you get almost like a $5 trial if you like. So anyway, could be something you could look at. Matt, hey Nitso, where's the best place to get up to speed on reading the wind charts to identify troughs? Yeah, good question. Oftentimes with troughs, we've got troughs at different levels, Matt. So with troughs, we've got a surface level. So surface level trough right there. See that? See, we can see that trough where it is, basically from about Mount Isa, just west of Longreach and extending down to Charleville. And what we're looking for there are these northeasterlies and these easterlies and these southeasterlies. So see how the air, it's not quite a low, but you can see how that air dips into that region. So that's a surface trough there, okay? So that's at the surface. Now, if we take a look at what's going on above the surface, because remember, troughs are at different levels of the atmosphere at different times. They're not always at the same. So we've got a surface trough and a low-level trough now. We're 500 metres up. Now we're going up about 1.5 kilometres, and we can see that trough is still there at the 1.5 kilometre level. And then as we go up a little bit more into the 500 hectopascal level, no trough there anymore. Okay, so there's not a trough there at that level. So that's a low-level trough that we've got, or a surface-level trough that we've got. So in the upper levels, when we go up to the 300 hectopascal level, which is about where the jet stream is, what we're looking for here are any evidence of kinks where this really strong air, this really strong wind is being pulled northwards. So if we start getting kinks, we start getting interested. And we see this kink tomorrow around southeast Queensland. So yeah, that we start getting interested in that area. So that means that we've got an upper level trough coming through southeast Queensland tomorrow. See that kink in the jet stream, and then it pushes across southeast Queensland and out to sea. And so the idea is there's a period of enhanced weather potential as that upper trough comes onto the coast. So what we then look for, and this is where the forecasting side comes in, we know that there's an upper trough coming through southeast Queensland tomorrow. So what is the surface doing? Let's have a look. What's our surface winds doing? Do we have a trough at the surface? Not really. We might have a little bit of a weakish trough there, maybe, if we use a bit of an imagination. But we don't really have something we can really sink our teeth into and say, yep, we've definitely got a trough there. All right, so that tells me that southeast Queensland is going to get rain tomorrow, but probably not on the higher side of numbers when it comes to, if we're going to get better rainfall, it might be more up here around Bundy, Gympie, Maryborough, Harvey Bay, maybe the Northern Sunshine Coast area. That's where it looks as though we might have a hint of a bit of a weak surface trough. So when we're trying to forecast these, we're looking for troughs at different levels, and we're looking to see if they can line up. So if we had a proper surface trough over southeast Queensland tomorrow, it's another one of those 1 to 300 millimetre potential days, right? But because we don't line up the surface trough and the upper trough at the same time, it limits our potential for really heavy rain down there. When we take a look at the high-res modelling for southeast Queensland as an example of that, we see that just looking at the latest there. So that's today. Tomorrow's rainfall for southeast Queensland, you'll see it increase. Yeah, so you can see that the upper trough is providing us with quite a bit of rain, but we're just not really exciting the atmosphere at the surface to take advantage of that too much. So we see some heavy showers, particularly north of Brisbane, but we don't see those 1 to 300s that we would probably expect if we had a proper trough. So, mate, it's a difficult one to give you because troughs happen at different levels. I can't just say, look at this level or look at this level. You've got to look through the entire atmosphere and understand at what you're dealing with there, whether it's a mid-level trough, a surface level trough. Surface level troughs are the ones that provide us with the most potential weather. Upper level troughs provide us with the ability to take that surface lift and violently create further lift. And that's when we combine this surface and the upper trough, that's when we get the big stuff, all right? And unfortunately, or fortunately, that's when we get our flash floods, that's when we get our big risk days, okay? Lee Tash, hi Nitso, how much rain you think the Karratha area may get from that low? Yeah, Karratha, let's go have a look. Let's go to Dampier. And so as the low pushes westwards, remember that the monsoon dies mid to late in the week, right? So once the monsoon dies, we haven't got a situation where we're able to provide that low with a lot of moisture. So the further west we go with the low, the less rainfall it ends up creating. And I'm just wondering if we do have enough. I don't know if we do. No, we haven't. I'm not sure why, but we haven't had the... Actually, I'll have to use windy. Just give me a sec. Shit. All right. So, I'm just making sure that we can see what I need you to see. All right, that's our times. All right, so when we go over here and... So as we look at this low coming off the coast of Broome... Actually, no, you can't see that. Let's try that again. So as we look at this low coming off the coast of Broome... Just give me a sec here, folks. I've just got two different... This is why I don't like to use this one, because I've got two different resolutions. I want to make sure you're seeing what I want you to see. Right, so as we move this low off the coast of the Broome area, you'll notice firstly that there's a lot of rain coming up for the Broome area itself before we get the thing off the coast. And then as we get it off the coastline, it won't happen till Wednesday, Thursday, yeah, there we go. So as we get it off the coastline, you'll notice that for Karratha, because you're west of it, you're just getting those isolated gusty storms, right? Now, as the low continues tracking west, it does provide us with some nice opportunities for showers, thunderstorms, and general rain areas. But because we're not really pulling heaps of moisture into it anymore, because remember, the monsoon is dead by now. All right, so the idea being that for Karratha, you're going to get a few showers and thunderstorms almost certainly as the low pushes west. But from a heavy rain perspective, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult to get really heavy falls when we start going this far west. For Port Hedland, I'd be a little bit more confident. Obviously for Broome, I'm very confident that they're going to get some very good rain. But the further west we go, the less confident I become about the good rain. The one positive there you can see on your screen is the fact that these early thunderstorms, while the low is just forming in and around Broome, these thunderstorms over the next few days have the potential to drive some pretty healthy rainfall into you as well. So don't just look for the low to give you rain, but also be aware that those little showers and thunderstorms on the periphery or on the edges of the low have the chance to give you significant rainfall as well. If you're asking in terms of numbers, let's have a quick look rain accumulation-wise. I don't think we're looking at huge numbers. And we've got to take this right out to Sunday, right? Because the thing's going to take forever to get off the coastline. But you can see there, places like Broome picking up, where are we, Broome? Yeah, picking up 91, just south of there, 180, 150s. Port Hedland, 50, Karratha, 30. That's decent rain, but it's probably not going to fill dams. Panawanica, Onslow, everyone's picking up something out of it. All right, but the big stuff, the heavy stuff, that's got to be around that west coast and the Kimberley-Pilbara border and the interior here. This interior region's going to do very well. no one asked them to get all this rain, but they just keep getting it. They just keep getting so much rainfall this season in through this region. Once again, it goes to waste because I'm not sure it's a very productive country, as in from a farming or grazing perspective. I think it's just too arid. But very good rainfall. And places that would have much preferred it being much further westwards or down into the agricultural regions. But unfortunately, some of the best rain out of this thing is going to happen where we probably least need it right now. But generally speaking, everyone gets a little bit of rain out of it. Just looking quickly at some of the other modelling. GFS shows something a bit healthier for Karratha. Port Hedland gets some really healthy numbers there. Once again, best rainfall just south of Broome, but in that Broome area, right? So that's where the best stuff is there. And the German modelling, and once again, you see really good rain, probably a little bit overboard with regards to how much rain Broome and the Bidyadanga area get. And the Bureau of Meteorology's model, that's 50 to 150s through the region. And you can see Karratha on the western edge of that. You're not getting quite as much, but you're getting a few showers and thunderstorms at least. All right. The big problem is the monsoon. It comes in, it gets us all excited, and then it ghosts us. And it ghosts us in about 24, 36 hours during Wednesday, Thursday. And once it ghosts us, there's no further moisture advection into the region. So we're then twiddling our fingers and hoping that the low is able to do something, right? And able to continue to cycle convection because there's no further moisture advection into the place. So, that's the thing that goes against the big rainfall potential, right? The fact that we no longer have a monsoon after Thursday. All right, so hopefully that answers your question there, Lee. Selwyn, what happened to all the rain in the South Burnett? Haven't had much there. Here. Haven't we? I thought the Burnett has done quite well. Let me go to... Let me go to radar rainfall. Actually, no, let me go to radar, and I just want to have a look at some of the numbers out of the Burnett. I'm pretty sure they've done quite well out of this. I'm almost positive that they've done quite well out of this. For reasons we talked about, right? I guess the southern Burnett, you're talking about Kingaroy and those sort of areas, aren't you? Yeah, okay. They probably haven't done as well as they were expected to do. But, there's been parts of the Burnett that have done very well, much better than expected. So the last 2 days of rainfall, look at that. Some big parts of the Burnett, they're getting really good rain. But I see what you mean, down the southern edge of Burnett. Yeah, absolutely. So you're an unfortunate... what's the name? You're an unfortunate bystander to what happened, right? We talked about this at length. We said that the system developed around the Gold Coast was expected to track along the coastline to the north, but didn't. Tracked north-northeast and then died out to sea. So you are then left at the mercy of southeasterly winds. And you and I both know you don't get much rain from a southeasterly in the southern Burnett, all right? What we ended up getting then is a new trough that formed through the central to northern part of the Burnett and through the Wide Bay coastline. So you could see the big rainfall once we got further north of you. So, you were an unfortunate victim of circumstance there where the system moved northeast instead of north-northwest. And by association, you miss out on lots of rain there in the southern Burnett. So that's what happened, Selwyn. All right, been great weather inland of Kuranda. Sounds like we'll get some more. Yep, plenty more coming for inland of Kuranda, Gabriel. So, you'll enjoy it if you're a gardener, or your plants will anyway. Kelvin, hi mate. I've been working in Richmond the last few days, and bloody hell, massive storms. Yep. In the towers, same for the towers, mate. So we're anticipating just for tonight, probably not much, but overall over the week, expecting to see quite a bit going on through the towers. So we do take a look at Charters Towers there. Yeah, so there's a little bit of shower and thunderstorm activity around. I mean, there's some really big... I don't know if you've had a look at the satellite. I think I posted one earlier where there was some really big thunderstorms out the back of Pentland. Yeah, there they are there. And out towards Longreach, some massive thunderstorms. Actually, let's just get rid of the radar and just have a look at the Yeah, look at those cloud heights on that colorized infrared. That's about as high as they get. That's about as high as thunderstorms ever get. All right. And oftentimes we associate those with really big, tall Darwin thunderstorms or tropical cyclone, Cat 3, 4, 5 thunderstorms. But that's about as tall as they'll ever get. And there's some massive thunderstorms through the northern and central inland parts of the state today. Very, very interesting storm. So for Charters Towers, you're just on the eastern boundary of that. And we can see there that we're sort of pushing them right to the edge of the towers this evening. And then overnight tonight, they sort of just nudge you. And then as we go into tomorrow, we see new showers and thunderstorm development through the region again tomorrow. And on we go. From there, it's just every single day. Every single day. There's showers, thunderstorms. They're all around, right? So I can't tell you if Charters Tower's going to get one. All I can say is that they're going to be around. All right, and there are going to be a lot of them around. You'd be pretty unlucky. I can tell you this: you'll be damn unlucky if you missed out on a bunch of storms in the towers this week. I mean, yeah, you're going to get a lot of rain from storms, mate. It's just a matter of on any particular day. Yeah, sure, you might miss out. How much rain do you think Mareeba will get in the next week? I would say somewhere around the 100-ish range, pretty much the same as the rest of North Queensland. I can't see Mareeba being anything special, and I can't see Mareeba missing out. So I genuinely think Mareeba's just going to be one of those run-of-the-mill 1 to 200 places that we're going to see around the tropics over the course of the next week, Liz. I haven't seen anything to sway me in either direction saying that you'll get more than that or you'll get less than that. Yeah, I mean, 40 by Wednesday night? That's probably pretty conservative. And, there's no sign over the course of the next week for Cairns, Mareeba, Atherton, all that area. There's no sign at any stage. Maybe, I'll tell you what, there might be one sign on Wednesday where we see all that rain shift down to Mackay. That might be your dry day, right? Wednesday, maybe Thursday as well. They might be drier. I'm not going to say dry, but drier. So there'll be less storm activity about for the tablelands there on Wednesday and Thursday because all of our heavy rain would want to shift southwards towards the Townsville, Mackay area at that time, and then it'll start shifting back to the north, and you can see it all sets in again over the weekend. At least that's the way we think, but remember, we've still got that uncertainty about that circulation around the Townsville, Mackay coast at the end of the week. So, yeah, nothing there that tells me that you should be any more special or less special than anyone else in North Queensland, mate. So 1 to 200. Megan, loving the new maps in iWall. Still learning to read them, though. That's great, Megan. That's part of the process. Good stuff. I've got a guide in Discord. So if you go to Discord and you're on the Weather IQ Discord, so make sure you link your Discord with Weather IQ. And there's a guide on how to navigate the weather centre, read all the charts, all that stuff. So check that out because, that will help you in that learning process as well. And there's sort of like a storm guide too. What sort of numbers do we want to see and what charts for storms? Selwyn, I'm starting to really think I don't bet on the rain. Yeah, you can never bet on the rain, not in that part of the world. If you're on a coastal place, yeah, sure. But if you're in South Burnett, you need a lot of things to go right for you to get rain, right? You need storms to be coming at the right time. You need storms to be able to tap into moisture. You then need, what else do you need? You really need instability at the right time that you've got moisture as well. Man, you don't bet anything on the South Burnett because they have a tendency of either missing out big or getting hit big. Yeah. Bear, hey champion, Jesus, you're a cluey bugger. Thanks, Bear. Will the Kimberley low give Point Sampson a drop or two? Yeah, so we just talked about Karratha. Same thing for you, Kirsten. So the idea is the Kimberley low is going to move westwards from about Wednesday. And up until Wednesday, there's a chance there that Point Sampson gets some of those storms that are inland because they're going to be trying to push towards the coast. And then beyond that is when you might start to get some showers and storms from the actual low itself. But remember, the monsoon ghosts us after Wednesday. So as the low starts to get off the coast of the Kimberley, the monsoon lets go and the system then sort of just potters along and doesn't really do much. It provides a few showers and storms, but doesn't really create huge amounts of rain. will it still be good to travel on Cairns on Friday? You'd be needing to keep an eye on the roads for sure by Friday. Listen, the one thing that I'll say to you is between now and Friday, you know, we're dealing with a couple of 100 mils on the coast. Coast can deal with that, all right? So it's not as if we're seeing 1 metre of rain over the next week. A couple of 100 mils is nothing for a coastline, okay? So they're going to handle that. It's just the flash flood risk, Lee. So that's what I'd be watching for, flash flood risk. So if there is a big storm on the coastal road, there might be some surface water that you're going to have to take it easy on, all right? But I can't imagine that there's going to be huge amounts of riverine flooding from 200 mils of rain over a week. It might be a different story if we're getting 1 to 200 in week 1 and then another 1 to 200 in week 2, which is what is being predicted at the moment. All right, that becomes a different story altogether, especially over such a widespread area. But for now, just till Friday, I can't imagine you're going to find yourself in a world of trouble. If you were talking to me about next Friday, then you might find yourself in a bit of trouble, especially if we have 2 weeks in a row of significant rainfall through this large an area. Okay, so a couple of 100 mils on the coast, not a problem for this week. A couple of 100 mils this week and a couple of 100 mils next week, and not just on the coast but everywhere, big problem. Okay, but for this week, no problem. Hi, is Bogantingen, west of Emerald, about to get any rain? Diane. I genuinely don't know where that place is, and I don't know how far west of Emerald Bogantingen is. There's a lot of stuff further westwards out towards the gem fields, or west of the gem fields. I'm just not seeing too much going on through that Emerald area at the moment. Let's see if we've got any guidance on that. Yeah. You're probably right on the edge of some stuff, but you're not. Nothing there that got any alarm bells about it. Bogantingen. I've never heard of the place. Yeah, so nothing there that I'm seeing alarm bells that should be screaming at you, mate. Yeah, there's a little bit going on there tomorrow as well. Yeah, you probably, yeah. I mean, there's always there's a lot of light drizzle out there, right? So there's a lot of storm activity further to the west. There'll be some outflow of that storm activity. There'll be some light drizzle, I'm sure. I'm just not seeing anything major for Bogantingen. Never heard of it. It's a good name. I like the name. I might say it a few more times. Mark, just joined you, Rolleston. Yeah. Same as Bogantingen. There's not much going on. There's a fair bit going on west. There's just not much going on around Rolleston itself. If we take a look here at the AI modelling, I see if maybe we've missed something. No. Look, if you're going to get something around Rolleston, it's going to be overnight tonight, into tomorrow. Tomorrow's your last real chance of picking up some showers and thunderstorms. I'm sure there's going to be a few around tomorrow, all this area, so Bogantingen as well. But after that, there's nothing there that's going to flood you out. You're too far south after that. All the big rain's going to be up north of you, all right? So we're talking north of Emerald, the big rain, as we go through the week, all right? So the further north we go through the Central Highlands, the more likely we are to get rain. But for today and tomorrow, overnight tonight, there's a small chance of a storm, and then tomorrow, probably a better chance of a storm as that upper trough comes through. Might destabilise your atmosphere a little bit. That's a chance there. And then after that, she finds up for you. But in the northern parts of the region, no, we expect to see more rain up there through most of the week. Jamie, hey Nitso, first time watching you live. Love your work. No worries, Jamie. Great to have you with us. Jesse, hey Nitso again. Is the monsoon dying out? Is rainfall? So rainfall in the... so Jesse... The monsoon dying doesn't necessarily stop the Whitsundays from getting rain. Let me just give you an idea of what's going on here. So the monsoon's not the thing that's providing you with rain to start with in the Whitsundays. It's actually let me bring this up so you can see it. All right, so it's actually a deep tropical easterly flow that actually drives the rainfall into the Whitsunday. So this monsoon opens the gate for the rainfall, right? So it opens the gate for the moisture. And then after about Wednesday, what happens with the monsoon just dying in its track, what happens here is we develop this deeper layer of easterly moisture that comes in from the equatorial Pacific. So the monsoon opens the door for the moisture to come down from the tropics and then gets out of the way. And then we get this deep easterly flow that comes in to North Queensland. And that's how Mackay gets its rainfall, or the Whitsundays ends up getting its rainfall, with the combination of that little northeasterly, northerly flow that comes in after the monsoon leaves us alone. So, yeah, it's not quite the monsoon that's creating it. It's the monsoon that opens the door for that moisture to come down, and then it's whether or not you take advantage of that door being opened, which at this stage looks like you will take some advantage of it. But hey, champion, Jesus, you're a cluey bugger. I'm so curious to know what models actually nailed the setup for Southeast Queensland yesterday. Yeah, not the EC model. Mate, the model that got it right for Southeast Queensland, believe it or not, was our high resolution model. So if we go back to the night before the Southeast Queensland stuff was expected to happen. Right, so I'm hoping that we've still got that data from that night. So, maybe it was this. Maybe it was the morning. Yeah, so it got Friday right. So see how it got Friday right? So the Access C model got it right. So it suggested there was going to be heavy rain. It probably underestimated the rain in the Gold Coast. And then notice that for no one else in Southeast Queensland, except for this odd area up here, was supposed to get good rain there on Friday, right? So no one else here. And because you could see here, see the rain trail, see how it pulled the low out to the northeast, and then whatever was left of the low came onto the coastline up here, which that part wasn't right. But this part here, spot on. It was the only model that was showing that. Every other model had Brisbane getting nailed, right? The only one that went, hey, hang on, this isn't going to go the way you think it is, was this one here, the high-res model. Problem is, you can't take that as a gospel model because it often gets it wrong. But it's always interesting when one model just completely goes off on a tangent and picks up something that all the others didn't. And all the others were saying big rain on the coast. This is the only one that said, hey, hang on, not big rain on the coast. Have another think about it. All right, so, yeah, so this is the model, mate. So this is the one that said you're going to get not much. And it only did that on the morning of, though. All the others were still, the night before of the actual setup. So that's the only time it actually got it right, was the night before. And then, yeah, all the models got it right on the day, but by that stage, you'd already warned 4 million people that they were getting 200 mils of rain, and they end up getting 20. So, yeah, it's all well and good to show it in the next 6 hours, but you want to see if you can get a bit more lead time. But yeah, the one model, if you're asking a question about Southeast Queensland, the one model that got it right was the Access C Southeast Queensland. Cuzzy Bromaxing. I don't know what that is. Cuzzy Bromaxing. Highly recommend full member. Love the weather center. Good stuff, mate. Good on you, Mad Mumsy. Yeah. Quinton, hi Nitso. How's Cloncurry looking for the week? Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, it's one of those border areas, all right? So we know that there's going to be really good rain east of Cloncurry. We know that there's going to be really good rain north of Cloncurry. But Cloncurry, you're in one of those tricky spots, Quinton. You're in a bloody tricky spot there, mate. Right, so we know that there's going to be huge rain out here, right? Richmond, Hughenden, Charters Towers. They're going to get good rain this week. No problems about that. That part's not what we're to... Oh, have we got... Maybe Maxwellton will give us that. Is Cloncurry and Maxwellton? There it is. All right, so what we also know is that the Gulf's going to get really good rain this week. What we don't know is how far south that rain's going to go from the Gulf down in towards Cloncurry, right? So... when we take a look here at the modelling, I just want to get rid of the radar and satellite because it's confusing me now. Too many my ADD's kicking in. All right, so the expectation here is that we're going to see a lot of rain north and a lot of rain east of Cloncurry. Cloncurry is going to be very similar to Mount Isa, where they're just on the western and southwestern side of all that. So you can see there's some showers and thunderstorms today, tomorrow, through the area. And then as we get that heavier fall of rain, you can see it's mostly on the Flinders Highway east of Cloncurry. So as we go through the week and we're getting those moderate to heavy falls of rain in the northern Goldfields and upper Flinders, we're generally keeping them east of Cloncurry for the most part. So you can see there, even when we're starting to get heavy rain Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Cloncurry's always on the western boundary of that. So it's a bit tricky because if the boundary moves westwards a bit more, Cloncurry starts to get in on some of the heavy rain. And if the boundary moves eastwards, Cloncurry might only see 5-10 mils for the week. So right now, you're just on the western. So you can see here, over the course of the next week, the rest of the northern Goldfields, upper Flinders and parts of the central west districts, they're getting 100 to 200 mils over the next week. You're getting somewhere around that 50 to 100 range for the next week, right? Because you're just on the boundary, the western boundary. And we go further out to Mount Isa, and they're getting a little bit less than you, all right? Because they're just west of the boundary of the heavy rain. So for Cloncurry, it's certainly a wait-and-see approach. I wouldn't be committing either way. It's definitely a wait-and-see approach for Cloncurry because you're on that western boundary. If you'd asked me about Hughenden, happy days. I could tell you you get pummeled. If you ask me about Charters Towers, happy days. You're going to get pummeled, right? But because you're Cloncurry, you're just on that western boundary. Now, if that Gulf low that we expect to see form starts to push southwards over the course of the next few days, as we go to sort of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if it pushes southwards instead of westwards, Cloncurry will come into that boundary and Cloncurry will get heavy rain from that. All right. But if that low just pushes southwestwards, happy days. The rain will stay east or north of you. Okay. So Cloncurry's tricky. Do we have flooding rains up from Townsville to Cairns this week? I wouldn't say flooding, Rob. Most of this coastline can deal with a couple of 100 mils in a week, and that's what we're looking for, mate. A couple of 100 mils in a week. The flooding risk comes in week 2, all right, not week 1. Week 1, everyone gets a fair bit of rain. Week 2, some of the models want to give a fair bit more rain to everyone again. So that's where the flood risk comes, all right? So if we start to get those 200s turning into 400, 500 over 2 weeks over large areas, yeah, sure, that's when we start to have the flooding risk. I wouldn't imagine there's too much flood risk over the next week with a couple of 100 mils on the cards, okay? Lauren, Tones and I, Friday night. So that's a little too far out, mate. With so much going on, it's just a little bit too far out to know what we're going to get on Friday night for Ingham. At this stage, it does look showery. I've got to be honest. It does look quite showery on Friday. So yeah, but mate, Tones and I, just brave it. A bit of rain, never hurt anyone. But yeah, look, definitely showery at this stage. Moranbah. Yeah, Moranbah's another tricky one because Moranbah's on the southern boundary. So we just talked about Cloncurry. So I've got a question about Moranbah here for Steve. Steve, let's go to Moranbah. Let's have a look. So we're going to see some rain shift southwards through North Queensland down towards the Mackay region. Now, Moranbah being inland, that's the tricky part, right? How far is this shit from the north going to go inland later on in the week? So we can see for Moranbah over the next couple of days, it's you're sort of on the borderline of maybe a shower or storm. You might get one, you might not. You probably won't, actually, by the looks of that. It'll probably be just north of you and just west of you and just east of you, right? But you're on the borderline, so don't be shocked if you get one. And then as we go through, see how we bring some of that heavier rain down into the Mackay region, but see how, because you're inland, we're not really penetrating that rain as much towards Moranbah. Certainly looking at an increase in rainfall on Wednesday, Thursday, but are we going to get something really heavy over Moranbah? I would say not. the accumulation over time with multiple 6-hour periods there of potential rainfall could end up resulting in 50 mils or so for you, maybe even up to 100. What's our total accumulated? Yeah, so 50 to 100 is what we're looking at for Moranbah for the week. But you're not going to get the 200 plus or the 200 plus or the possible 200 plus that you're going to see in other areas of North Queensland at this stage. It's been so hot in Mackay. Yeah, that hopefully will start to change as the southeasterly starts coming up. I know that Mackay was looking for some cooler weather as the week goes on. And as we know, Wednesday, Thursday, we're going to get a fair bit of rain through Mackay. So that'll hopefully cool you down a bit. And even after that rain eases for Mackay at the end of the week, we're still going to see some pretty cool southeasterlies. So should be a better week for Mackay, but it might still be a bit humid and hot tomorrow. But generally speaking, it's a better week for Mackay weather-wise this week. Well, from a temperature perspective, mate. Yeah. All right. I am done for the night. So, folks, if you'd like to support us, just remember weatheriq.com.au/subscribe. $32.95 a year to get all my forecasts every single day of the wet season. $69.95 to get yourself all of our weather maps and things like that. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with you on Tuesday night, so 3 nights' time. And we'll have a chat about how that Queensland rainfall's continuing. That pattern will evolve, and we'll have a better idea at what's going on with that possible low at the end of the week. We'll have a better idea at what's going on with that low in the Gulf. Is it going to move south into the Isa area, or is it going to move southwest into towards Tennant Creek? That'll determine how much rain we get in northwest Queensland. We'll have a better idea if we're seeing any sort of clearance for northeast Queensland, or whether we're just going to continue to rain on for ages. You might want to ask me about Tones and I again on Tuesday night. We'll have a much better idea what Ingham can expect Friday night on Tuesday night than we do tonight. And WA, of course, if you're in the Kimberley or Pilbara and you want to know more about that low, make sure you tune in on Tuesday night. That low should be almost getting off the coast Tuesday night, probably Wednesday. And then we'll have a pretty good idea at whether or not it might turn into a cyclone, or it might, which is unlikely but possible, or how much rain it might produce for those more populated Pilbara areas. Thanks for watching tonight. We'll talk again Tuesday night.